It's time for us to kick off. Welcome to Marketing in the Digital World, part 2 of 5. You may have thought that there were 4, but listen carefully and Jeremy will tell you about that later. This is being presented by Jeremy Petty. As a reminder, this presentation is being recorded and you'll receive a link to the recording as well as a copy of Jeremy's slides. You should get that either later today or by tomorrow. I'm Diane McKeever, the chair of the Education Committee of the Minnesota chapter of SCORE and moderator of the webinar. I want to take a few minutes to tell you about SCORE, and then Jeremy will start his presentation. SCORE is a nationwide organization of volunteers that is supported by the U.S. Small Business Administration. We provide small businesses with free confidential business mentoring, both in person and online. And we offer amazing resources at our website, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But since its founding in 1964, just over 50 years ago, SCORE has assisted over 10 million clients and small businesses throughout the USA. If you are a small business owner, please contact us and apply for a SCORE mentor. We help businesses in all stages of their development. Many of our clients are in the pre-startup where they have an idea and they think that perhaps it's a viable idea. And we help them decide whether or not it is. Or if they're in their startup phase and they're actually opening up a business, we can help them there too. Or they want to grow their business. Certainly, Jeremy is going to talk about helping you grow your business and sell your product. Or if you're in the selling or closing or want to buy a business, we can help you with that. So please think about applying to become a mentor or to have a mentor. We can get you over those bumps. We've got 80 mentors waiting to help you. I want to tell you a little bit about our website, minnesota.score.org, as you can see. That's where you go if you want to apply for a mentor. If you look at the website, you'll see that there's 2 easy ways to get a mentor just by clicking on those links. Or if you'd like to sign up for a workshop like this, we have workshops every week or more. Sometimes we have 2 in a week, as we will this week. You can find a webinar to sign up for, or you can look through our resources. You can locate podcasts, look through our library that shows you all of our stored webinars. So if you've missed a webinar, just do a search. There's a great search field at the top. Search for what you're looking for, and you can find resources such as files, videos, and other resources. So I'd like to lastly thank all of our sponsors and community partners. This is a growing list, and we're so grateful for them. They help keep the lights on. Without these people, we would not be in business. So if you have an opportunity to support any of them, please say thank you for supporting SCORE Minnesota. All right, I think we're ready, Jeremy. Take it away. Marketing in the Digital World, part 2 of 5, right? Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yes. Thank you so much, Diane, and welcome everybody to the SEO presentation. I will warn you ahead of time, this is a little bit on the technical side as I pretty much go through the entire SEO process and how to set up your campaign for success. So a little bit about me. I'm a digital marketing expert with over 10 years of experience. I own my own digital marketing agency. I also have some side businesses like some e-commerce websites and things like that. I'm a certified SCORE workshop presenter. I actually, when I went to start my marketing agency, I reached out to SCORE and became a client. My mentor really helped me throughout the process of the business side of things because, hey, I knew how to do digital marketing, but I've never run a business before. And so SCORE was able to set me up with an awesome mentor. He helped me lay down the foundations and has helped me grow my marketing agency exponentially over the past few years. I've helped hundreds of businesses over 10 years generating, we actually hit this milestone of $250 million in revenue through digital marketing for our clients. So that's a little over $250 million in revenue in total for all of our clients. So that's awesome. And I work with businesses of all sizes. So just like SCORE works with businesses of all sizes and all stages, I do the same thing. So I'm very comfortable working with the one person small startup businesses all the way up to franchises and enterprises. So I know what it takes to be successful at each stage of your business. So today, what we're going to be going through is, again, SEO. I'm going to do a quick overview of SEO. I'm going to tell you what it is, why you need it, and I'm going to go over some common misconceptions because these are some questions or misconceptions that I hear almost on a daily basis. So I just want to cover these so that you have a solid understanding of what SEO is and what you can expect from it. And then I'm going to go through the entire SEO process. So I'm going to talk about your website design first. I'm going to briefly go over this, and because the website's the foundation of anything that you do online. And the last thing you want to do is try to optimize a website that people just don't like using. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to show you how to do competitor research, how to do keyword research, how to create a website sitemap to organize your SEO campaign. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to do the actual technical SEO, the on-page SEO, talk about authority building, and then how to analyze your results and make edits to your SEO campaign based on your results. So if you are already involved with SCORE, this should be very familiar to you. This is the business model canvas, and anything digital marketing related falls under the channels section. So SEO will fall under the channel section. This is a channel that you use in order to generate traffic and generate revenue for your business. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the overview of SEO. And so what is it? Well, SEO, which is an abbreviation of search engine optimization, is the process of nourishing and growing your website so that it ranks highly in search engines. And of course, the ultimate goal of an SEO campaign is to rank #1 for keywords related to your business. This will help generate what we call free traffic to your website, increasing leads and in turn new customers. Now, the reason free is in quotations is because the traffic itself is free. Unlike an advertising campaign where you're paying every time somebody comes to your website, with SEO, it's organic traffic. This is people coming to your website organically through the search engines. But it's free in the sense that you're not paying for the traffic, but you still have to either invest, in your own time to do the SEO campaign or hire somebody externally to do the SEO campaign for you. So when your website is properly optimized for a keyword, it will start to rank in what we call the SERPs. And the SERP is just another acronym that we use that stands for Search Engine Results Page. So this is the page that shows up after you typed in your question into Google. Now, even with the advertisements and the little local map pack, if you're looking for local services, being above the organic results, 70% of users actually skip over those and go directly to the organic results. And this is because people know that these are earned. You can't buy these results. These are earned through hard work and establishing your website. And so, that's why people skip over the ads, they skip over the map pack, and they go directly to these organic results because they know, hey, if they're ranking organically, inside of Google in the #1 spot, that must be a pretty good website to go to. So that's why the ultimate goal, and this is why, the majority of traffic actually comes from an SEO campaign. It comes from this organic traffic, right? So like I said, SEO makes up, it's actually over 50% of all website traffic now. This stat was from a couple years ago, pre-COVID. So now with everybody staying at home, website users have skyrocketed, and so it's now upwards of about 65 to 70%. And again, this traffic is called organic traffic. And I kind of alluded to this before too, but unlike an advertising campaign where traffic stops as soon as you reach your budget cap for the day or you stop the ad campaign entirely, the only limitation to the amount of traffic that SEO generates comes down to how well it's performing inside of the search engines. Now, some common misconceptions about SEO, and again, these are things that I hear quite often, is that amazing results will happen overnight. Well, Google themselves have come out and said in one of their YouTube videos that it can take anywhere between 4 to 12 months to even see any sort of results from an SEO campaign. So SEO is a long-term project. It's not going to get you the results that you want overnight. If you're looking for more immediate results, that's where you would look into doing a Google Ads campaign. If you're interested in Google Ads, I am doing a webinar tomorrow about that. So stay to the end. There's a little bit more information about that. Building authority isn't worth it. So authority is essentially how trustworthy your website is. And the way that you build up your authority is through backlinks. And I talk a little bit more in depth about this in particular later on. But it's one of those things where, this is where a lot of the bulk of the costs of an SEO campaign come in, because you essentially have to purchase what are called guest blog posts on other people's websites to generate those backlinks and to increase your website authority. But your website authority is basically Google's way of figuring out, hey, how trustworthy is your website? How trustworthy is the information on your website? And your authority can be the deciding factor on where you rank inside of search engines. So it doesn't matter how technically optimized your website is, or how well the on-page optimization is on your website, because those two things could be perfectly optimized. But if you have a very low authority, somebody else with a much higher authority and who has an okay optimization will always outrank you, because Google thinks that their content is more trustworthy than yours. So building authority is absolutely 100% worth it, and it's oftentimes necessary if you're in a very competitive industry. SEO is a one-time service. This is something that I get asked a lot, like, well, can't I just pay you to just optimize my website, for this month? And SEO is an ongoing process. It's not something that can just be done in a month. The whole point, again, it goes back to that first sentence about what SEO is. It's about growing and nourishing your website. And the best way to describe this is it's like, trying to grow an orange tree. I was born and raised in Florida. We had orange trees in our backyard. And so I used to love just going, picking an orange and eating it for a snack. And you can think of your website like that orange tree, right? So when you first build your website, there's no authority, there's no optimization. It's like planting a seed or planting that sapling, but you still have to take care of that sapling if you want it to grow and produce fruits, right? You have to put the fertilizer down. You have to make sure it has the proper nutrients with the compost piles. Sometimes you have to put pesticides out because you don't want your tree to get infected. So you're not going to see the fruits of your labor right away. It takes time to grow that tree. But eventually what happens is it starts to produce those oranges. And then you get to eat them and enjoy it. And that's the same thing with your website. You can't grow and nourish your website overnight. It takes a long time to do that. And eventually, instead of giving us oranges, your website will produce leads, and those leads will turn into customers. So SEO, it's a long-term process, and it's an ongoing process, because once you stop SEO, the whole point is to get the search engine's attention, to get Google's attention, to say, hey, look at my website, look at my website. And what happens is Google starts to look at your website more and more often because it sees these new optimizations, it sees this new content. And as soon as you stop, Google notices that. So your performance is going to start to drop off. So it's an ongoing thing, but it's definitely worth it because it is going to be the backbone of the majority of the traffic coming to your website. The next one, the website needs to be crammed full of keywords. This was an old school SEO tactic that we used to use over 10 years ago to try and get your website to rank. This will actually get your website penalized inside of Google. So it's one of those things that you want to stay away from. Internal linking is a waste of time. Again, this goes back to the technical and on-page optimizations. You can think of the entire internet as just a bunch of websites linking to each other. And your own website is just a bunch of page linking to each other. And so Google has something called PageRank, where it actually you have your overall ranking for your website, but every single page within your website also has a rank for itself. And so if you are linking your pages together, you can actually share that page rank with other pages. So it's super important to have that internal linking within your website. And then the last thing is that cheap SEO will get me number one. In the short term, yes, it will. You will be number one in Google for a couple months, and then all of a sudden your website will disappear. You see, the thing is with cheap SEO, and when I say cheap SEO, I'm talking about people who say, hey, give me 90 bucks, 100 bucks a month, and I'll guarantee you the first place in Google. See, they use what's called black hat techniques. These are techniques that go against Google's policies. And so while they have very good short-term effect, your website will get penalized, and in certain circumstances, it can even get permanently banned from showing up inside of the Google search engines. So just something to be wary about. If you're going to hire somebody to do your SEO, definitely have them tell you about their process and how they're going to get you to that number one spot. Because the last thing that you want to do is invest into something that's ultimately going to end up in your website being banned on Google, because that's the last thing that you want to do. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to actually take you through the entire SEO process to show you what a proper SEO campaign looks like. And the first thing here is website design, right? So when it comes to your website, there's a few key factors that you want to make sure you get right to ensure your website's a good user experience and it's ready for an SEO campaign. And not just for an SEO campaign, but for any type of digital marketing, any type of marketing where you're trying to send people to your website. You want to make sure it's a good user experience. The last thing you want is to send a bunch of people to a website where it's super difficult to navigate, or it doesn't load for 10 seconds, or you want to make sure it's a good user experience. So some of the things that I kind of have a checklist on is, does your website look modern? You don't want to send people to an outdated website. You want people to feel comfortable visiting your website for the first time. And the way that you do that is by keeping up with modern design trends within your industry. Having a responsive design. This is pretty much mandatory nowadays, but making sure that your website shows up properly on mobile devices and tablets and things like that. Scalability. You want to make sure that your website can scale with your business. Usually, when I work with startups or pre-startups, when they build their website, they kind of use those do-it-yourself platforms like Wix or Squarespace or Webflow or one of those things, even GoDaddy Web Builder. The issue with these platforms, though, is that it's really difficult to scale your website as your business grows. So you want to make sure that you build it on a platform like WordPress that can scale infinitely with your business. Speed optimization, just make sure your website loads quickly. You want to make sure that your page is fully loaded within 3 seconds. Anything under 3 seconds is great. Anything over 3 seconds is really slow, and you risk that person leaving your website and going to competitors. One of the biggest factors here is actually going to be the hardware that your website is on. So this is whoever your website host is. For the most part, I know a lot of people use shared hosting, which is like the default hosting on popular platforms like GoDaddy or Bluehost. And so when you're on those shared hosts, it's really hard to increase the speed of your website because you're limiting yourself on the hardware side. So, I could go in there and I could optimize the actual speed of the website. I could use plugins and caching and all these different tricks to try and speed up your website. But, in the end, if your website is being hosted on a low tier server that has very slow hardware, your website is never going to load fast. Clear communication, just make it super clear what it is that you do and what you offer to your potential customers. Clear USP, we learned about this last week, so make sure that your unique selling proposition is on your website, because that's what differentiates you from your competitors, and that's sort of like the primary reason why they should choose you over anybody else. They should choose your services, your products, whatever it is that you sell. And then you want to make sure that your website is optimized for conversions. Essentially, what this means is make it as easy as possible for somebody, if you provide services, make it as easy as possible for somebody to give you their contact information. Whether it's a newsletter sign up, whether it's a contact form, you want to try to minimize the number of clicks that a user takes in order to convert into a lead. If you sell products, make sure you make it as easy as possible on your website for them to go through the checkout process. So just make sure that it's super easy for the user to do what you want them to do. So the next step is competitor research. And competitor research allows you to get an idea of how well your direct competitors are performing inside of search engines. And what's cool is that you can research things like their domain authority to see how trustworthy they are, look at their backlink profile, see the keywords that they're ranking for, and how much traffic those keywords are generating for them. And the best tool to use is called SEMrush or SEMrush. However, there are some free tools that you can use instead of this. And a popular choice right now is called Ubersuggest. And I'll actually get into Ubersuggest here in a couple slides. But the first thing that I like to do is, let's say if your company is a landscaper in the Sarasota area. So what I'm going to do is to try and find my competitors, I'm just going to type that exact thing in. Okay, where are my landscapers in Sarasota? And it's going to show me who my competitors are inside of the search engine. So you may know, just based on your own market research, or you've been in the industry for a few years, you know who your direct competitors are. But your search engine competitors may be a little bit different. And so in this example, we can see, sometimes the top ones, the top lists are going to be like Yelp, or it's going to be those business listing type sites like Home Advisor. But what we want to look for here are actual companies. And so here our top 3 competitors for just the landscapers in Sarasota are going to be like Tropical Garden Landscape, Landscaping on a Budget Sarasota, and then there's another one underneath Angie's List that got cut off. But essentially what we want to do is we want to try and find the top 10 actual companies and see what they're doing. Right. And so we're going to look at a couple technical aspects, and I actually get into how to do this a little bit later on in the slideshow. But what we're looking at here is we want to look at the title tag, and the title tag is essentially the link that you click on. And this tells Google and users what that page is all about. That's the title of the page, right? Next is the meta description, which is just a brief synopsis of what that page is about. And then we look at some schema features. So what extra goodies are associated with the organic listing? And in this case, they have some site link extensions on their organic listing. And what I do is I like to go through each one, roughly the top 10, and see what I can find that they all have in common, right? So if somebody's looking for a landscaper in Sarasota, well, let's see, you can actually see the keyword that we typed in is in bold, right? So if I just take the laser pointer here, we can see that landscapers in Sarasota. This is what, Google assumes we're looking for a landscaper in Sarasota. So we can see the bold here. We can see all the keywords, and we can see, well, hey, they have this keyword here in their title tag. They have landscape in Sarasota in their title tag. They have landscaping in Sarasota in their title tag. So maybe we should do that too. And you just keep doing that for the meta description. You look and see what type of extra goodies are added on there, so that we can make sure that we optimize our pages for this as well. And again, we're trying to figure out why is Google choosing these top ones, aside from everything else. Like let's just look at what all of these have in common, and you're going to start to pick up on some patterns quite quickly, right? So here we're going to go into Ubersuggest and look a little bit more in depth at our competitors. So after we find those patterns in the organic results, we want to do a deep dive into each one of those competitors, right? So all you have to do is type into Google Ubersuggest. The name and website is right here, and the URL's on the left-hand side in the blue there. And to get started, all you have to do is type in the competitor's website right here, and then click on the search button. And what that's going to do is it's going to pull up their website. It's going to tell you, hey, this website is ranking for this many keywords. They get, so in this case, it's 300 keywords. They get roughly 189 people to their website every month. Here's the domain score. That is domain authority, and that's on a scale of 0 to 100. So you can see that, hey, these people are ranking very high, even with a low domain authority. So if you were a landscaper and you wanted to outrank this company, all you'd have to do is get your authority higher than theirs. And then it shows you roughly how many backlinks that they have. So this, again, the backlinks dictate what the overall domain authority is going to be. So it's a great tool to scope out your competition and see what you need to do in order to outrank them. But mainly right now, we want to focus on the keywords that they're ranking for. So all you have to do is just click on that box where it says organic keywords. And this kind of blends into our keyword research portion. But we just want to see what our competitors are ranking for to see if there's some keywords in there that we could also use. So with Ubersuggest, you can view all of their keywords, and it gives you how much search volume each keyword generates per month, as well as how many visitors they're getting from each keyword per month, and what the difficulty is to try and rank for that keyword for yourself. Not only that, but it also shows the search engine results page in Google for that specific keyword. So if we clicked on tropical landscapers here, it would show us what Google is listing for all of the different websites that are ranking for that one keyword. So if you're not careful, if you get too far into it, you can kind of go down this rabbit hole. So just kind of keep it and just, see what keywords that each company is ranking for. And like I said, that blends into our keyword research portion. So keyword research will help you put together a list of all the keywords that you want to rank for in search engines. And what you want to keep in mind when generating your keyword is to think like your customer. So when you're in the industry, you've been working in there for 10, 20 years, you know the lingo, you know the nomenclature. There's technical terms that you throw out every day that people in the industry know, but your customers may not know that. So you have to put yourself into the shoes of your customer. You have to think like them and say, okay, if somebody was trying to find my services or my products, what would they be searching for? And I'm going to show you exactly how to figure that out. So just as an idea, for local service businesses, and I'm just going to stick with the landscaping and Sarasota theme throughout this presentation. But your keywords are primarily going to consist of service plus location or location plus service. So for example, if I own a landscaping company in Sarasota, some of my keywords may be landscaping in Sarasota, Sarasota landscaping, irrigation company in Sarasota, if that's one of the services that I provide, etc. It could be lawn care company in Sarasota. So all the different types of services or products that you provide. And then like I said, if you're a local business, then you're going to add on that city all the cities that you provide your services in. And with keywords, there's two main types. You have your short tail keywords and you have your long tail keywords. So short tail keywords, there are search terms with like 1 or 2 words, and these have really high search volume, but are really hard to rank for, and they have a much lower conversion rate. Whereas long tail keywords are search terms with 3 or more words in it. These are usually much more specific and detailed keywords that have lower search volume, but they have much higher conversion rates because of the fact they're much more specific. People searching for long tail keywords usually have a better idea of exactly what they want. So you want to try and target all of these different long tail keywords when you're creating your keyword research list. And the great part about focusing on long tail keywords is the fact that you inherently rank for the short tail version of that keyword. So for an example, landscaping company in Sarasota is a long tail keyword. It ranks for semantically similar variations like landscaping business in Sarasota, as well as ranking for the short tail keyword version, which is just landscaping Sarasota. Right. So next we're going to get into the actual keyword research and how to figure out what are people actually searching in order to try and find a landscaping company. So we're going to use something called the keyword research tool or the keyword planner. And this is built right into the Google Ads. So you will have to have a Google Ads campaign to use this or a Google Ads account. But the tool itself is free. So once you're on your dashboard there, you just go up to the top bar, click on tools and settings. And then on the far left under planning, you want to click on keyword planner. And from here, what that's going to do is it's going to give you two options. You can discover new keywords, or you can get search volume and forecast. We want to focus on discovering new keywords. And once you click on that, we're going to get into this next section where we can actually start to type in all of the things that are related to our business. So something, again, keeping with the theme here, the landscaping company in Sarasota, I'm going to start typing in all the different services that I provide. So landscaping, irrigation, yard trimming, lawn care, hedge trimming, tree removal. But again, I don't serve the entirety of the United States. So I don't want to get the keyword results for the entirety of the country. I want to focus in on exactly and specifically what are people in the Sarasota area searching for in order to try and find these services. And so what you can do is underneath where you put in all of these keywords, you can just click right here. There's a little map icon here, and it says United States. If you click on that, you can actually, it'll open up this window, and you can go in and you can specifically type in all the different areas that you service. So what that's going to do, it's going to filter all the results down to all of these different areas that you select, which really focuses in on exactly what your potential customers are searching for. And so this is what that looks like when you actually filter it down to the Sarasota County instead of doing the entire country. So it should be highlighted in blue here. So once you hit search, this is what's going to show up. It's going to show you all the different keywords that people are searching for in the Sarasota area relevant to the keywords that I typed in. So out of all the keywords that I typed in, and I have it zoomed in here, you can see that there's almost 4,000 different keyword ideas that you can use to try and optimize your site for. And so what I like to do is I like to sort by the average monthly searches because I want to try and target the keywords that have the highest search volume. And so I'm going to focus on, optimizing my website for those higher search volume keywords. But I also, again, I want to look for the long tail keywords in this list. So I'm looking for things that are, 3 or more words long, because again, it's going to inherently rank for the short tail version of that. So now that we've done our competitor research, we've done our keyword research, now we need to start to map all the keywords that we chose to pages on our website. Right? So a website sitemap is essentially just a list of all the pages on your website. And like I said, you want to assign the keywords that we just found to pages that we already have. And then we need to create new pages for the keywords that we don't currently fit into any of our current pages. So again, this is where the nourishing and the growing of the website happens by building new pages to target those keywords that we just found. And the purpose of creating a sitemap is just to help you organize and think through your campaign before you actually start implementing it. So again, this is all the research that we have to do before we actually start a campaign, right? And this is what a very basic sitemap looks like. You can do this in Excel, you can do this in Google Sheets. But what I'm doing here is I've got my website page structure on the left two columns. The third column are the actual links to my website, because I want to make sure that this is going to help me create a slug for the page. And a slug is essentially what comes after my domain. So bestlandscapingcompany.com/services/irrigation Sarasota, right? So that's my slug, irrigation Sarasota. And the keyword that I'm targeting is irrigation systems in Sarasota. Right? So I'm trying to put my keyword into the actual link of that page. So once you go through that process, you list out all the keywords, you assign them to the pages, you plan out all the new pages that you're going to create to target the other keywords. Now we actually start to implement the campaign on the website itself. And the first step that I take is to do technical SEO. So the technical SEO is like, it focuses on the foundation of the website. It focuses on all of the code and the structure of your website. So to begin the technical process, an audit has to be performed on your website so you know, hey, this is what I need to focus on. And SEMrush has one of the most in-depth auditing tools available right now. And I kind of brought this up before too with the competitor research. You can do that in SEMrush. There are other free tools out there to give you a website audit, but SEMrush is the most in-depth. It's going to give you the best report possible. And like I said, it's not free. I think it's like the cheapest one's like $100 a month, but you can always sign up for a 7-day free trial. You can run an audit on your website, and then you can just deactivate your account so that you have the audit there. You know what you have to fix, and you got it for free. But using SEMrush, this is your dashboard. Once you scan a website, it shows you the errors, the warnings, the notices, and it actually lists them all out right here. So the errors are things that need to be fixed right away. These are things that are heavily going to impact your performance inside of search engines. Next are warnings. These are items of medium importance. They more than likely are hindering your performance in search engines, but they're a much lesser priority than errors, and there are some warnings that you can get away with not fixing that are okay to have. And then notices are just things to be aware of. They probably should be fixed, but again, there are some notices that are okay to leave there. And I kind of touched on this before when we were doing our competitor research. But inside of technical SEO is also the title tags, the meta descriptions, the slug of the URL, and everything like this. So again, just to kind of go back over that, the title tag, it tells Google's and users what the page is all about. The slug is essentially the URL of the page itself. And then the meta description is the brief synopsis of that page. Now, just to show you how to edit this, this is using an example of a WordPress website using the Yoast SEO plugin. And you can see the name here up at the top, the Yoast SEO. It's a free SEO plugin that you can use, and it's a really good tool to help you optimize your website because it essentially tells you what you have to do for every single page in order to make sure that it's properly optimized. And so the 4 main technical items when you're setting up your page is your keyword. What keyword are you trying to go for on this page? And it's very important that you're only trying to target one keyword with one page. So you want to only target one keyword. You don't want to try and target multiple keywords with one page because you're going to end up, not ranking very well for any of them. The title tag, this is where you can edit the title tag. It shows you this little green bar here. There is a character limit to the SEO titles. So you want to make sure that your title isn't being cut off. You also want to make sure that you put your keyword into the title tag because that was a pattern that we noticed when we did our competitor research. The slug of our URL, again, this is pretty much just the link for our page. So this is, in this example, it's the home page, so it just says home. And then the meta description, again, this is just a quick synopsis of the page. You want to make sure, based on our competitor research, we saw the pattern that, hey, they all had the our focus key phrase or our keyword was inside of our meta description. So we want to make sure that we include that in there as well. So the last technical optimization would be to add alt attributes to any of your images. And essentially what an alt attribute does is it tells search engines what the picture is about. So putting your keyword for that page into the alt attribute of an image helps the overall page rank, and it also helps that specific image rank for that same keyword inside of the Google Images tab. So there's multiple ways for you to be able to increase the visibility and the performance of your website because you can have images ranking for specific keywords along with your page ranking for those same keywords. So next is the on-page SEO, and this pretty much has to do with all of the content of your page. So this is the text, the images, the videos, multimedia, the internal linking. And with the Yoast SEO plugin, it gives you all of the major on-page optimizations to look for, and it grades your page for each of those items. And so this is below the search engine snippet editor in the page, which is what I just showed you in the technical portion. And it grades how well your content is optimized for the keyword that you're trying to go for. So in this instance here, we're trying to rank for this keyword, best landscaping company. Now, again, if you're a local company, usually your homepage, you're trying to rank for your branded keyword, and your branded keyword is essentially your brand name. What is your company name? You want your homepage to rank for your company name, and then you want your service pages to rank locally for each one of those services. And again, that's the service plus location, and that's the keyword you're trying to rank for. But the goal here is to eventually turn this little face here. You want to turn him green and make him smile, right? Because now he's happy, and that means that your website is, your page at least, is properly optimized for your keyword. And so some of the things that it shows you here, and this is just a sort of to-do list that it tells you, hey, you have no outbound links. You've got no links going to other websites. You need to add some. Hey, you've got no internal links. You need to put some internal links onto your page. Hey, your subheadings don't have your key phrase in it, or your keyword in it. You need to make sure you add that. And so that's essentially what you have to do. You have to make enough of these bullet points green, like this one, in order to turn this face green. And that essentially tells you, hey, this web page is pretty optimized for the keyword you're trying to rank for. Again, this is just in WordPress. It's a lot different in other platforms. And this is the reason why I like to go with WordPress, is because from a digital marketing standpoint, there are tons and tons and tons of plugins to help you market your website. Yoast SEO and Rank Math, they are the two top SEO plugins for WordPress. They're both completely free. They both also have a premium version with additional benefits to it. But the free version is amazing, and it will, help you optimize your website. Unfortunately, if you're on a Wix platform or Webflow, one of those DIY platforms, even the GoDaddy website builder platform, they all have either zero SEO capabilities or very primitive and limited SEO capabilities. And again, that's why I always recommend to go to WordPress, because it makes this process a lot better, a lot easier, and a lot more effective. So next is the off-page SEO, and this is what we call authority building or link building. And like I mentioned earlier, authority is the trustworthiness of your website. Google's job is to serve its users the most relevant and trustworthy information. And the main deciding factor of your trustworthiness is your backlink portfolio. And a backlink is a link that comes to your website from a different website. And you can think of it like a referral, right? So let's say I go to you and I say, hey, I've got a toothache. I need to see a dentist. Can you recommend me a good dentist? Like, oh yeah, here's my dentist business card. Okay, thank you. But I don't just want to take one person's word for it. I want to go to a few other people and say, hey, I've got a toothache. Can you recommend me a dentist? Now, if I go to, let's say, 4 or 5 different people and they all give me the exact same business card, they say, hey, you got a toothache, you got to go to this dentist, then I have it on pretty good authority that this is a very trustworthy dentist to go to. And the exact same thing happens with websites. So what Google is looking for is other websites that are referring their traffic to your website saying, hey, best landscaping company in Sarasota, they have the best yard trimming services in Sarasota. They have the best tree stump removal services in Sarasota, right? So it's other websites referring their traffic to your website because you are the go-to for whatever service it is that they're telling their customers, their visitors that you offer. So how do you get backlinks? Right. Well, for local businesses, one of the very first things that you can do is you can start creating profiles on business listing websites like Angie's List, Yelp, Thumbtack, Front Porch, etc. There are tools available to help you get these listings created, one of which is called Moz Local. Now, SEMrush actually has a new plugin, I guess you could call it that. It's a new service where they actually do the same thing for about $40, $50 a month. It will help you put your business information out there to about 80 to 100 business listing sites. And Moz Local is kind of the leading authority on this, though. But these are called local listings or business listings. And essentially what it does is it cements you as a bona fide local business for that service in your area. And so Google actually uses that information. It sees, wow, you've got you've got your company name, you've got your address, you've got your phone number, and they all say you're a landscaping company, and it all has a link to your website. So it just cements you as a bona fide local business in the area that you provide your services. So it's a very, very great way to just get an initial sort of push in your authority for your website if you are a local business. The other method is through guest blog posts. So once you've exhausted the local listings, or if you're not a local business, then you can't really use those local listings. So you have to go to the second method. And this is really where the bulk of the cost of an SEO campaign comes into. This is buying guest blog posts. So a guest blog post is when you reach out to another website and you ask them, hey, can you post a blog post for us and send a link back to our website? And that blog post is going to be all about the services that we can provide. And they're going to say, hey, we're a good fit. Our company is a good fit for that service. So again, we're essentially buying referrals from another website. Now, these are almost always paid for unless you personally know the owner of the website and they're willing to do it for you for free. But 99.9% of the time, you have to buy guest blog posts. Authority building is a slow process, and anybody guaranteeing you thousands of backlinks to increase your authority should be avoided like the plague. And this goes back to our misconception slide. Cheap SEO will get you number one. This is the primary way that they do that. They just send thousands and thousands of spam backlinks to your website. Yes, your website will rank very high in the short term, but these cheap link building services will ultimately land your websites with penalties, which result in drastically lowered rankings or even having your website de-indexed completely by Google, meaning it does not exist in the Google search engine anymore. So it's really important that, when you are building up links, you're not just spamming your website with thousands of spam links, that the company that you hire to do the SEO process is actually building up high quality backlinks for you. And the last thing that goes into the SEO campaign is just analyzing the results and then making changes to your website based off of those results. Now, results in the mind of a business owner are, how many clients did SEO get me? How much revenue did it generate for me? And, and it's not unfair to say, yes, the end result is to generate more revenue for your business. But when it comes to SEO, especially when you're just in the infancy of the campaign, you're in the first few months, maybe even the first year of the campaign, results are measured by continuous growth and increased performance in the search engine, and not necessarily how many clients or how many paying customers did I get from it. So Google Search Console, it's another free tool integrated with your website. And it gives you all the insights that you need into the performance of your website inside of the Google search engine. So it'll tell you, hey, this is how many clicks your website got in this timeline, and you can set the time frame for it. It tells you how many times your website showed up for all of your keywords in that specific time frame. What is the average click-through rate for your website? and what is your average position of your website. So these just kind of give you a very, very high level overview of your performance inside of search engines. And ideally, in order to properly figure out how well your SEO campaign is performing, you want to see total impressions, which is the purple line here. You want to see this going up. You want to see an upward trend, because if we see an upward trend, that means, hey, our website is being shown more and more and more inside of the search engines, and then we'll start to look at the clicks. Hey, are we getting, on average more and more clicks? Is that trending upwards as well? That's how you measure performance of an SEO campaign. It's not necessarily by how much traffic we're generating and how many clicks. I mean, yes, that's the end goal, but really with an SEO campaign, our goal is to increase performance inside of the search engines, which then results in increased clicks, increased impressions, and a higher average position. And this is going to be the last slide for the SEO today. And this pretty much, it just shows you all the different keywords that you're ranking for inside of Google. So you can see how well your pages individually are ranking, what keywords those pages are ranking for, how many clicks each single keyword has generated for your website, and then how many times your website has actually shown up for that specific keyword. So this can be a very powerful tool. Again, it's free. It is a Google product. So it's directly, it's made by Google. It pulls all the data straight from the Google search engine. And so this is where we go to monitor the performance of an SEO campaign. And then based on this information, we can go back to certain pages that may not be ranking very well for a keyword. Go back and we can figure out, okay, we didn't optimize that page properly for that specific keyword. That's why it's not ranking so well. And so with that ends the SEO portion for today. Now, tomorrow, we're doing something a little bit different. I'm actually going to be hosting a live Google Ads training. So I'm going to teach you how to create a revenue generating Google search ads campaign for e-commerce websites. It's not going to be a slideshow like what we normally do. It's actually going to be a live training session. So I'm going to be inside of Google Ads. I'm going to create a campaign from scratch and show you how to create a very successful advertising campaign. Now, the training, because we're in the holiday season, it is geared more towards the e-commerce side of things to help increase the revenue generation this holiday season. However, the training can be used by any type of business, including B2Bs or even service-based businesses. And I'll kind of touch on the nuances a little bit tomorrow, but you're not going to want to miss this. It's tomorrow night, 5:30 p.m. And again, it's a live training. So I'm going to be covering everything from how to create the Google Ads campaign, how to organize your campaign into ad groups, how to use keyword research like we did today to figure out which search terms to focus on. So tomorrow, I'm actually going to be using the keyword planner and going in depth on how to use it and how to actually choose keywords. We're also going to use keyword research on how to implement negative keywords. We're going to show you how to create high quality ads that sell. We're going to create ad extensions to increase ad performance and functionality. We're going to create conversion actions to actually track the sales that come from the ads. And then we're going to learn how to use advanced bid adjustments to fine tune your ads impressions. So again, this is not a slideshow tomorrow night. This is actually a live training that I'll be doing. I'm going to use my own e-commerce business as the guinea pig so you can actually see what I'm generating on a very small budget. So again, you're not going to want to miss this tomorrow night. And with that, is Diane, do we have Jack here yet?
Yes, I see Jack is here. Jack?
I'm here verbally.
Awesome.
I don't have an audio, but that doesn't matter. I mean, a video.
So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Jack now, and he's going to preview next Wednesday's presentation, which is going to be on identifying your prospective customers and keeping them. So Jack, over to you.
Okay, Jeremy, thank you. Can everybody hear me? And Jeremy, you know that you're in charge of my slides, old buddy.
Yes, sir.
There we go. Okay. Hi, everybody. Whether or not you were part of the week one last week on establishing the unique selling proposition, I just want to tell everybody this is where we're going in the process of these 4, actually 5. Very lucky to have that 5th one. These 5 live streams are meant to take you through the essential process of creating marketing communications, especially those communications that will rely on the internet and social media. So week 1, I hopefully made some connection with those who were in attendance on figuring out how to make your marketing communications from your side as the sender, make them more effective. Jeremy, having just completed the SEO part of it and properly included, by the way, the business model canvas block of channels, because that channels comes into the communication model. If you were there last week, I don't want to show, the slide is not part of my preview, but last week we talked about the relationship and communication between the sender and the receiver. These 2 sessions that you've just been through are all about sender communications, creating the communication through the establishment of the USB, and then putting that communication into the proper channels so that they reach a prospective target audience. And that was Jeremy's preview for what he's going to be doing in the weeks to follow. So that's that. But I have a very private comment to make to my esteemed partner in front of everybody, especially those people that remember JFK was one of the US presidents. Jeremy, I went from a green face in Jeremy's presentation to something other than green, because Jeremy referred to something old school as being defined as happened 10 years ago. And I'm sort of tilting my head and wondering, really, is that what old school is these days? But given the target audience of these live streams, it may actually be very accurate, so I defer. So anyway, what are we going to do in week 3, knowing full well that we are that we're going to be going into the receiver side of the communication? We're going to be talking about the prospective customers and how you can properly make the necessary effort to identify them. You may not know them perfectly, but through a simple process or processes that we will conduct in the next scheduled live stream, I'll be giving you definitions and processes and programs for how to do a better job of identifying and profiling your prospective customers, either defined as and including those you know you want to contact and those you sort of like, you're not sure you want to do that until you've developed a better research function. But it'll get you started on making sure that you're not taking your business communications and moving them over into an area where those people who are hearing the message have absolutely no interest or need for your USB. So we're going to try to make that a cleaner operation if you'll just attend next session. And if you can hit the next slide, Jeremy, I'm going to tell them. So basically what we're trying to do is help you answer the basic questions of who really are, or what's a good idea of who your customers are. As Jeremy pointed out, with doing your competitor research, who are your customers? Who are the customers that are currently shopping your competitors? You might want to borrow them a little bit and turn them over to being your customers. And then the last one is somewhat of a hypothetical. Well, who should be your customers? Is there something about your customer profile that is missing, some people that in your good judgment, you feel you should be targeting your communications to, and then see if that is not a successful idea or not. Next slide, please, partner. So there are 2 basic ways to go about this profiling of your customers. And for the sake that this is only a preview, we're going to basically break them down into 2 major blocks, and they are called demographics, which are statistical profile information about who your customers are physically, geographically. And then we get into the more involved and somewhat more complicated psychographics profiling, and that talks more about attitudes and behavior. And that becomes a pretty interesting situation to go determine. Yes. Thank you in advance. So we're actually into demographics and psychographics next week, talking about statistics and attitudes and behavior and the ways to go about effectively profiling them. Is there yet one more slide? Some homework. If any of you want to take the time to get a little advanced information, a little heads up on how customer or prospective customer profiling, go to this website, and you'll get yourself some education, and you'll be a little bit more responsive and knowledgeable about the information I'll be sharing at the next live stream. So at the end of that, I guess I'm done with my preview. So I'll return back to Diane and Jeremy, who are not old school presenters, but are very much in a different demographic. So we'll be seeing you next time. I'm done.
Thanks, Jack. That was great. Okay, we've got a couple more things to do, and then we'll get into Q&A. For Barb, who's asking for if we could go back a page, you are going to get this presentation emailed to you. We already have your email addresses from your registration. You'll be getting this entire presentation, both the video and the slides. So you'll be able to have this as a takeaway. Jeremy, could you advance? Yeah, okay, great. So to just summarize, tomorrow, really important. I'm so excited about it. How to create a revenue generating Google Ads campaign for your e-commerce store. It's just going to be sensational. Sign up for it. Go to minnesota.score.org, click on take a workshop, and you'll see it's right there. And then Jack will be back on December 1st, as he was talking about identifying your potential customers and targeting them. And then we'll have the Jeremy, I believe, does the last one on December 8th. Our Minnesota Score website, if you are interested in becoming a mentor, having a mentor, taking a workshop, browsing the library, it's all there. All right, let's move through that because we're running a little short on time. So you will be getting a workshop webinar evaluation. It is so important if you would just fill this in. Getting your feedback is imperative. It helps us identify which workshops you'd like to see more of. Let's go to our Q&A. I think that's our last slide. So let me answer the first one that came in, good old anonymous. Jeremy, if you're there, if I update my WordPress website page names and site maps, for example, I update the WordPress theme, how does Google penalize the change, or do they?
So that's a good question. As far as the website theme goes, a theme is essentially just the graphical portion of your website. But as far as like changing the names of your pages and changing the link structure of your pages, if you're going to be changing the names and changing the technical term that I showed, the slug, what you're going to want to do is you're going to have to install a plugin. It's called Redirect. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are properly redirecting the traffic from the old link name to the new link name. And that's what it does, is it just implements a 301 redirect so that if those pages are already currently ranking, Google will know, hey, I went to the old URL, I was redirected to this new URL. And because it's a 301, which is just the technical sort of name for it, it's a 301 permanent redirect. So Google understands that code, that 301 code. It says, hey, this page is permanently moved. So what it's going to do over time is that new page will then start to rank organically in place of the old page. So usually what you want to do is leave that redirect there until you stop seeing traffic coming to that old link, and then you can potentially remove that redirect. But usually what I like to do, just to stay on the on the safe side, is to keep that redirect there. And so that's how you would kind of fix that issue of changing your link structure or changing your page names. If you don't do the redirects, and let's say you just create the new pages, what will end up happening is, Google will try to go to that old page and it'll see what's called a 404 error. So a 404 error is essentially just the code for, hey, this page doesn't exist anymore. There's no such page. And so what's going to happen is instead of being able to get all of that, all of the power that you built up with that old page and transfer that to the new page through a 301, if you don't redirect that, you get that 404 error, that page will drop off of Google very, very quickly. And you're going to have to essentially start from scratch trying to rank your new page. So it's very important that if you are changing the names of your page and you're changing the slug of your page, that you implement those 301 redirects from the old page name to the new page. And again, there's a very simple plugin for WordPress that handles that. It's called, I think it's simply called Redirects. Now there is an SEO plugin called Rank Math, RANKMATH. And it actually has redirections built into it. So if you're looking for an SEO plugin, I personally have been using Rank Math over Yoast for the past couple of years now, but Yoast is still the most popular. The only downside with Yoast is that it doesn't have a built-in redirect system. So it will require that third-party plugin to do so.
Okay, another question. If we ask someone to do our SEO marketing, what should we look for to indicate that they're using that black technique that you mentioned?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So what you want to do is you want to just make it clear from the agency side or whoever you're hiring to do the SEO. Just have them tell you what their process is. If it's somewhat similar to my process, they should be okay. If link building and authority building is part of that campaign, you want to make sure that before they make those guest posts, those guest blog posts live, or before they start sending links to your website, have them actually send you the list of those websites where they're getting those links from. And then from there, you want to check a couple things. You want to make sure that those links are coming from relevant websites. So again, I'm just going to stick with the landscaping and Sarasota theme here. I want to try and get backlinks from websites that are kind of like maybe the homeowner blog sites or do-it-yourself sites or something like that have some relevancy to what I actually am providing. The last thing that you want is, let's say, like a makeup blog coming back to sending a link to my website, because it doesn't make any sense, right? And Google picks up on that. So you just want them to tell you exactly what they're doing with the campaign. And when it comes to link building, you want them to actually send you the links so that you can look at the website, see if it is a relevant website. You can use the tools like Ubersuggest and SEMrush to check the domain authority of that website to see if it is a high ranking site or if it's a low ranking site. And so that's what I would personally do if you were to try and make sure that they're doing a proper SEO campaign.
What are your thoughts on cloning a website for the design, assuming no copyright infringement on the content?
So if you like a website's design and you want your website to look like that, go for it. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you're not just completely straight up duplicating the content as well. Like you said, you're not going to be doing that. You're just copying the look and feel of the website. That's perfectly fine. It happens all the time. And that's actually a way that I kind of get my creative juices flowing. If I'm stuck on a website, or if I get hired to build a website, that's one of the things that I ask my clients to do is, hey, send me a list of websites that you like and tell me what you like about them, so that I can kind of take the best of everything and just kind of put it together into their own personal site. But there's nothing wrong with just copying the design of another site, as long as your content is different. That's okay. There is an issue called duplicate content that you can get penalized for if you just copy somebody else's content and paste it on your own site and say, yeah, I made this. You will run into issues there, but like I said, if it's purely just design wise, go for it.
How do you add alt to a page?
So the alt attributes goes into the, so if you're on WordPress, if you go into your media library and you just click on one of the images, In the right-hand side where it pops up with the name, the title of the image, the name of the image, and the dimensions, there's actually a little bar that says alt attribute or alt code or something like that. And that's where you can actually type in the alt attribute for that image. Certain web builders allow you to, when you put the image on the page, you can edit the alt attribute if you just click on the image. And again, it brings up the design information for the image on the page, and sometimes you can put it in there. But if you're on WordPress, it will be in that media library section. You just click on the image and then it says alt attribute or alt text or alt code, something like that. And that's where you're able to put it in. As far as other platforms, I'm not too sure. I primarily work with WordPress because of just the fact that it's so easy to use and it's super easy to integrate all of your marketing into it. But a quick Google search should be able to tell you how to do that for other platforms.
That's what I was going to say. Just a quick Google search, put in the name of your provider and what it is you're trying to do. And there's 42 videos that will show you how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
How does changing the URL on an old website affect its ranking? And I think that was sort of related to a previous question, but go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, so I'll provide a separate answer because I did have a client that had an old website. It was an attorney. And they had other attorneys there, so it was just their names was the name of the of their company, their law firm. That's the word. And so one of the older members had passed away, and so they wanted to change their URL, their domain name, to shorten it without that other person's name in it. But they wanted to keep the website exactly the same. And so that goes back to the same thing of making sure you have that 301 redirect. So you're still going to hold on to that old domain name, but then you're going to buy the new domain name. You're going to, transfer your website over to the new domain. And then from there, you want to keep your old website live, but you want to do a domain-wide 301 permanent redirect to the new website. So again, what that tells Google is, hey, I went to this old website. It's no longer active, but it pushed me to the new website. And so Google knows and understands, hey, this is their new domain. We need to start to rank their website for what the old website was ranking for. But again, if you're changing the names of the pages, if you change the structure of your pages, you want to make sure that you have to go through all the old pages individually and then do the 301 redirects. So it's a little bit more labor intensive, but that's the proper way to do it to ensure that you keep all of your rankings from your old website.
All right. I think it could be the last question. I'll have to look over at the chat, but how do SEO and keywords with a photo, how to do SEO and keyword with a photo and video page?
So with the photos, that comes down to the alt attribute. And so whatever keyword you want to rank for. So for instance, if you were to type into Google right now, SEO trend curve, my blog post with that image with an actual SEO trend curve that I created, that image is ranking like number 1 or 2 or something like that. And so all I did was I created that image, I put in the alt attribute as SEO trend curve, and then I put that onto a blog post also named SEO trend curve, I believe, with an explanation about that image. So you can have it rank just by putting that alt attribute in there. However, you can also improve its performance and its ranking if that image is also associated with a page that's trying to rank for that same keyword, or a blog post that's trying to rank for that same keyword. And the same thing goes for videos. So, YouTube SEO still applies to YouTube, and that's how you get people to rank their website or their videos high. And so you can kind of bring that to your own website as well. If you have a podcast that you want to put on your website, if you have just a video you want to put on your website, what I normally recommend is you can have that video, you can put the alt attribute into that video the same way you would a picture. And then what I like to do is put it into a blog post, and then you can either just put the transcription as the content for that video, or you can just write a couple paragraphs kind of summarizing the video. I prefer the transcription way because, you know, you can pretty much turn the video into its own blog post with the video up top. And so that's how you can help increase the performance of ranking an image or a video inside of Google itself.
Well, I have a whole page full of notes. I hope everybody else does. There's nothing else in chats other than major kudos from everyone who has attended. Oh, one more. You mentioned cheap SEO being about 90 to 100. What cost is an average SEO?
So, I mean, that really just comes down to the agency that you're going to hire. Usually freelancers are much cheaper. You're probably looking at about $500 a month. If you hire an agency to do it, you're probably looking at $1,000 to a couple $1,000s a month. But the cost of an SEO campaign ultimately comes down to, you know, what is your current ranking? How many keywords do you want to try and rank for? How competitive is your industry and how competitive are the keywords that you're trying to go after? So an agency is going to take all of those things into consideration and give you a price based on that. A freelancer will probably say, oh, well, SEO starts at, you know, $250 a month or $500 a month, and you're going to get X number of hours of work per month. And usually it's kind of like, you know, you can expect to spend $100 per keyword per month that you want to rank for. That's kind of the sort of average right now.
Wonderful. Well, we could, I'm sure, talk about this for the rest of the day, but some of us do have things that we need to carry on with. Everybody is very excited about tomorrow's presentation, Jeremy. And again, I am looking forward to it as well. So if you'd like to register for that, go to the Minnesota.score.org website, click on Take a Workshop, and you'll see it right there. It's the first recording or the first webinar, and just click on it and register now. So I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow night, including Jeremy. Thank you again, Jeremy. Another amazing presentation.
Oh, thank you very much, Diane. I hope everyone liked it. I know SEO is a super technical